Hello everyone, in this screencast we're going to take a look at classical civilizations in East Asia, which are specifically in China, and we're going to look at the Qin and the Han dynasties. And information on these can also be found on page 80 of your study guide. You can see here where these dynasties were located here in what we currently call China, here in Asia. And this graphic shows some of the dynasties over time that took place or that were in power in China. During period 1 we spoke of the Shang, and in this screencast we're going to look at the Qin and the Han. The Qin dynasty lasted from 221 to 206 BCE, and then the Han dynasty followed and lasted a lot longer, for nearly 400 years, from 206 BCE till 220 CE. So the Qin dynasty came into power after the Warring States period from 475 BCE to 221 BCE, which was a period of turmoil in which there was a lot of fighting and there was no one group that stayed in power for a long period of time. And during the Qin dynasty there were three influential belief systems: legalism, which included strict laws and punishments, and then also Taoism and Confucianism, two of the belief systems we've been studying. So the Qin had very strict rule, and they dominated their neighbors in western China. They had a well-equipped and well-organized army. And the emperor was Shi Huangdi, who ruled from 221 to 210 BCE. They had standardized laws and currency. Critics, or people that criticized the emperor, were put to death. Books were burned, and they began the start of the Great Wall of China. So some more on the Qin dynasty in terms of their social characteristics. The path to advancement in society was through the military, and the soldier was expected to remain loyal to the emperor at any cost, so no matter what. For the political aspects, this was the beginning of imperial China. It set the model for a unified, powerful state to control the entire area. And it was a brutal regime, and as I mentioned, had very strict laws, and this actually led to the downfall of this dynasty. For the economy, they used standard weights and measures, money, and roads. And as I mentioned, the most ambitious building project was to begin work on the first part of the Great Wall of China. And for their culture, they used common writing scripts. So next came the Han dynasty. Under the Han, the people of China enjoyed a level of culture significantly more advanced than that of other civilizations and societies of that time, a distinction that it would maintain until the 15th century. So vital were the accomplishments of the Han to Chinese culture that even today Chinese people call themselves people of Han. So again, the Han dynasty lasted from 206 BCE all the way until 220 of the Common Era, and it was one of the most stable and prosperous periods in Chinese history, and it lasted 400 years. In terms of some social aspects, it was very urban culture, in the sense that a larger percentage of people were living in towns or cities. So 30% of the people actually lived in towns or cities, which was an increased over past percentages. In terms of social classes, at the top were scholars and people that worked for the government. In the middle were ordinary free citizens, some of whom owned land, others worked on land owned by landlords, and below them was an underclass that included slaves. In terms of politics, the Han dynasty featured a very strong and very organized government. Legalism, a strict legal code, was less important, and this government was based upon the values of Confucianism. Family hierarchy was the basis of government power. In other words, the people felt and were expected to be obedient to the emperor, just like a child might obey his or her father. and the Han Dynasty expanded to the west, to the north, and to the south, covering the area you see here in red on this map. In terms of the culture of the Han Dynasty, there was a number of different developments they had, including decorative arts, bronze and ceramic figures, silk screens, calligraphy, record keeping. There was a formation of an imperial academy, which was a system for education, and then an exam you had to take for people to gain access to working for the government. So it wasn't just who your parents were or what family you were from, but there was a chance to educate yourself and take a test to get a good job in the government. Paper was improved, and the first dictionary was compiled, which listed more than 9,000 characters. And math, geography, astronomy, and acupuncture were other important developments. In terms of economics, there was great expansion of trade to the north, the south, and the west along the Silk Road or the Silk Route, and silk was the Han's most important export. And other innovations included paper, water mills, compasses for navigation, improved agricultural technology such as irrigation systems, and ox plows to help grow food better. Eventually the Han Dynasty declined and lost their power, and this largely came because defending their borders, because the dynasty became so large, defending their borders became very difficult and very expensive, and also the government ended up becoming corrupt and inefficient. And a period of chaos followed after the downfall of the Han Dynasty, beginning around 220 CE. And this has been some information and an overview of the Qin and the Han Dynasty. Please again check out your study guide on page 80 and see your world history teacher if you have any other questions.